Welcome to a new episode of the original Mike Ferry's podcast. And today we are continuing what we started with our first episode of my interview with Mike. So thank you for agreeing to do a second one, Mike. And
you know how much I love these.
Yeah, no, he doesn't love these at all. And he said to me, so what is the second one supposed to be? Because there was more of an outline for the first. And I said, honestly, I'd just like to ask you some probably more personal questions about building the company, about things that people need to do, how you dealt with the challenges that came along. Because in today's world, I don't know if there's a single person out there who isn't dealing with challenges or things that go wrong. And I'm sure in 51 years of the Mike Ferry organization, there were days that you were wondering why you started this.
Almost daily. Well, when I started, I put up a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in front of me in my office, and it just said 5 for 5 years. And I thought if I could do this for 5 years, I would have done something that was valuable and a sense of accomplishment. And about 40 years later, I finally took the 5 down, and because it no longer applied. It's interesting that you would ask that question, because I didn't have any great desire to do anything outside of what I was comfortable to do, which was talking about listing and selling real estate, because I was fortunate to work, as I've said time and again, with Pat McVeigh. And Pat McVeigh had probably 5 of the best real estate agents in town, of which I was lucky to be included as one of them. And I was never the top agent. The top agents outproduced me dramatically most of the time. But I thought, nobody's teaching agents how to sell real estate. Tommy Hopkins was the most popular speaker at the time, and Tommy was really good at motivating and getting people excited and turned on. And he had some good scripts that a lot of people used, but I just felt we had to take it a step further, so that's what I tried to do.
Well, that's interesting because, you just said that he was a good motivator.
Yes.
And yet you have often called yourself a demotivational speaker. Tell me about that.
Well, I think that real estate people love the idea of getting hyped, excited, turned on, motivated, enthused, energized. They like that. And in a seminar, that really does work. But in real life, it doesn't work because, not all moments are exciting when you're in trying to sell real estate. Call on about 10 expired listings in one day and see how exciting that really isn't. And so I called myself a demotivational speaker because I was trying to tell them the truth about what they had to learn to say and what they had to learn to do. And I was not always successful at it, but that's why I called myself a demotivational speaker. I think as many people over the years, I don't know how many people I've spoken to. I've been told I spoke to a couple million people over my 51 years, and that could be off by who knows how much, positive or negative. But I felt that as many people left the seminars depressed about what they did not know and did not do, that left excited about what they did know and did do. And I complimented the people that really knew how to sell real estate to take it to another level, to take it to a higher level of productivity, and therefore a better lifestyle with the money that they make.
Well, I know that you've always said that we are to keep our emotions between the lines.
That's right.
And that doesn't really lend for a lot of hype and, the highs and lows that motivation can bring. You get really excited. You're going to lose weight. It's this time and you're committed to it. You eat nothing for the first day, and by the second day you're eating a chocolate ice cream sundae, one of your favorites. With whipped cream sprinkles on top, and who cares about a diet? And you've always sort of said that it's the skill and the ability to control your time and your emotions
Yes.
that will make you successful. but emotions still exist. How do you stay calm? How do you personally
Well,
stay calm?
first of all, there's no advantage to me to get emotionally wrapped up in a question from an audience member, to get wrapped up in the emotions of one of our coaching clients that's had a difficult challenge for a couple of days. There's no advantage to them, and there's no advantage to me. So therefore, getting all hyped up and excited and, yelling and screaming and jumping up and down doesn't seem to solve the problem. What solves the problem is a little sense of calmness where you can take a look at the problem that you're dealing with, and we work on a solution together. And if that solution works, yippee. If it doesn't work, we find another one. But getting all excited, I can't remember the name of one of our clients one time said, I'm trying to keep my emotions between the line. I live in Tennessee. And are the borders of North and South Tennessee close enough in terms of keeping my emotions between the lines? I said, you need to tighten the lines a little bit. But I think her name was Debbie, if I remember correctly, and was a client for a long time ago. But, there's no big advantage, no big plus, no big win, yelling, screaming, hollering, jumping up and down. And yet when you have an attempt to have a sense of calmness in your response, it settles the people down that you're with.
Well, I have watched you do this for years. Things have, in 50 years, there have been a lot of things that have gone on just in the world, let alone in real estate. When you think of 2008 and you go back to the economic crash in 2020 with the COVID thing, like literally sometimes it feels like the range of issues that we are dealing with aren't from North to South Tennessee, but from South America to North America. They've been so big. And yet you always are the calming voice. Actually, I think you tell our clients to always be
the calming voice.
The calming voice in every situation. Just for our listeners on this, I will tell you that I test Mike on this all the time because my lines are a lot wider than Mike's. And how do you put up with me? Maybe I shouldn't ask that, but...
How do I put up with you?
Yeah.
Well, you're my partner, you're my wife, you're the love of my life. It's easy to put up with some emotion, but too much is too much.
And you tell me that sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that, Mike really will be that calming voice of every situation. And so often the challenge that I have is I get upset or excited about something, and he watches me go through a range of emotion and either am exhausted by it or super excited about it and then end up back where he is. But I've done this and you've been that.
Well, think about working with a buyer who has multiple choices on which home they pick, because the agent did a good job and picked out 3 all good homes. Any one which the buyer would pick would be the right home. Or a seller that you're working with that is stuck on the commission and absolutely is not moving. You're getting mad, you're getting upset, you're getting tied into those circumstances does not advance those problems and take care of them. What is going to advance them and take care of them is not buying into the emotion, not buying into the hype, and not buying into the fact that this is a very solvable problem. There's 3 homes that we like, correct? Yes, there's 3 I like. Which one of the 3, if you had to buy one today, would you buy? Well, we'd buy number 2. Why don't we see if the seller will sell you their home? And, it's not...
This is what I live with.
It's not complicated, but, it goes back to what I've said for years. If you don't know what to say, you can't do what you're supposed to do. If you know what to say, you can boldly step forward and do exactly what you have to do to get the transaction completed.
And not be attached to the outcome, your other favorite line.
Well, being attached to the outcome only hurts the person that's attached. It doesn't hurt the person that's not attached. So getting attached to the outcome, because we don't know what the outcome is going to be when we start a process. The process could lead us to 2 listings and 2 sales, or it could lead us to no listings and sales for 2 weeks. But being attached to the outcome isn't going to improve the outcome.
I'm sure that a lot of people who listen to this, who have followed you throughout the years, will understand, maybe even at a deeper sense right now, a few of your things that you talk about, like start every day at 0.
Yes.
If you're starting at 0, you're not bringing all the emotion from yesterday into the day. Then your other one that just popped into my head is every day, do your job.
Yeah.
If you do that, then you don't have to worry about all the other things that happen.
That's right.
So there's actually some method in all this madness, huh?
Yes, and usually I don't know what the method is going to be when I start, but I can figure it out pretty quickly.
You do. And you do that, and I've watched you do that for a long time by not getting emotional.
Yeah.
And I just, every once in a while, I think it would be so funny, well, probably absolutely catastrophic for me if Mike actually ran around the office and went, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what just happened. I've never, ever seen you do that, and I'm pretty sure I never will.
Well, my door closes and locks from the inside, so you probably haven't witnessed it, but darn it, I wish that wouldn't have taken place. Okay, unlock the door.
So you are human. This
100%,
does happen.
100%. If I get cut, I bleed red.
There you go. So it's learned.
It's a learned process. I mean, you're making decisions every day on how you choose to respond, because not every buyer responds the same way. Every seller responds the same way. Every cooperating agent does not respond the same way. Your broker, your manager, your assistant, your team leader does not respond the same way every day. You wish that everybody would operate at the same level. Never going to happen. So one person has to remain calm to bring the excitement down to a level where you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Wow. I'm having flashbacks of all the times where he has said to me, Sabrina, you can't control what somebody else does.
That's
you
right.
can only control how you react.
That's right. And if you really understand that, trying to control what you do from sitting over here, even if I get you to do something that you're against, what have I accomplished? And I've accomplished on a long-term basis a bad relationship. On a short-term basis, I may have got a deal done that I wouldn't have generally got done, but it's not going to last. The relationship, the referrals, the long-term business is gone.
So that is part of the fact of just keeping your emotions between the lines, controlling what you can control. You've often said you don't control your first thought, but you can control your second.
Yes.
Is there something you could tell everybody that we could work on? Like, I know you used to say, write out a 3x5 card, but how do we learn this? How do we do this to become closer to how you can deal with this situation?
Well, first of all, I'm 80 years old. I'll be 81 in a couple months, so I have an advantage of time invested. I'm 18 years older than my beautiful wife. My oldest son, Matthew, is 57, 56.
I think maybe 57 or 58.
Yeah. And my youngest daughter is 41. And we just went through a traumatic situation with her. She spent 7 days in the hospital and was not able to digest any food or drink any water. And she's a little thing. She's only like 5'1" and weighs 100 pounds. And it was traumatic to me, the father, to watch her daughter go through this. But you notice I didn't express any high emotion around her.
No.
While we were in the hospital. I tried to be calm and be relaxed and smile and cheer her up and, say the right things to her, as did you so well. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I'm not emotional. It means that I don't express the emotions where they don't need to be expressed.
Well, and in hindsight, I can see that had you been running around the hospital yelling about, oh my gosh, do something.
And we heard a lot of that in the hospital.
Actually, we did. And it was a full 2 weeks that she was in the hospital for this. So it was a really significant occurrence for her and something that she had to go through. But you're right. You were the quiet one, the rock, the steady person. And that really did make a huge difference. Have you always been this way?
No, I think probably when I was younger, 20s and 30s, I was reacting to this, I was reacting to the pardon me twice. I was reacting to the circumstances that I was involved in because I wasn't mature enough to know the difference. So as I aged and matured, I realized that there were certain responses that brought about a better result than other responses. So I just started shifting my priorities as to how I would respond. I mean, there's two responses to anything that takes place. Good, bad, yes or no, up or down. I mean, that's it. So if you always choose the side of the bad, the upside down, it's not going to work and it's a terrible situation, you're going to get that result. I chose speaking in front of an audience that if I started presenting bad results, all I would do is validate those in the audience that love bad results. So I stopped doing that.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, because I know you have always said, what benefit is it to you to give anyone out there information that would hurt them?
That's right.
It just doesn't even make sense. And when you boil it down to its most basic thing, you've never been about the applause or about being right or of taking credit for people's success. When someone comes up to you and says, oh, Mike, you've changed my life, your response is always the same.
Yes, I had the easy part. You did all the work.
And that's actually
true.
You've you laid out what they need to do, and you still do that. For 51 years, what you have laid out has been designed to help real estate people achieve great things in their business.
But the question is, why do so many reject it?
Great. So let me ask you that question. Why do so many reject it?
Because they don't have an open mind to the situation, the conversation, the scripts, the dialogues, the techniques that we're teaching. And I'll say that to an audience. I'll say, you have to be open-minded to really get a lot out of this seminar we're doing for the next 2 days. And if you're not open-minded, guess what? You might as well not be here.
How much of being open-minded is also dealing with the instant gratification? In today's world, people want it now. You need something, you order it from a company, you have it literally the next morning or within hours. And everybody wants results now with no effort.
Yes.
How do you balance that?
Well, you don't. I mean, and I say this respectfully, if you're an immature person, you're going to get immature responses and immature results. If you're a mature person thinking logically about the outcomes for the prospect, the buy owner, the expired, the past client, center of influence, then you're going to get that result. So it's what you choose to think about. Earl Nightingale said you become what you think about. We talked about that briefly on our last episode.
Right.
But it's true, you become what you think about.
It's interesting. I read this line this morning that says, it's little until it's not.
Yeah.
And how the reference point was, you start off learning a new skill or a new technique, or even with the Olympics that have been on, that you don't start at the top, you start at the bottom and grow.
Yeah.
And it takes that time and that investment. I think you once said that you had gained weight from eating a lot of tacos. Tell me that story.
Well, the manager of the office owned a little restaurant in the shopping center where our office was. And George was a great guy. He was immense because he loved eating his own food. And you know, God bless him. I'm sure he's long passed because he was old when I was young. But he said to all of us, just go down, order a couple tacos. I'll send you a bill once a month for what you've eaten and take care of it. Well, you know, you offer a guy that loves tacos, free tacos for a month. I would get a couple of them before I'd go show property. I'd get a couple before a listing presentation, get a couple after I prospected a few hours. And next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock and I've eaten 12 tacos. and I went from about 180 pounds to about 240. And then I looked in the mirror one day and said, "You're fat and you're going to do something about it. George, don't bill me. I'm not going to your taco shop anymore." So I had to take the weight off.
Well, it was funny because I always remember you in seminars telling the story, and you would say, "It's not that I ate one 60-pound taco."
Yes, that's right.
It was a process, and it was tacos here, tacos there, but the end result was something, in this case, that you didn't want. But it reinforces that if you're working on something a little bit at a time,
That's right.
it's little until it's not. The size of the taco didn't change.
And chicken are better than beef.
Tacos. There you have it. So
The secret.
the other thing that I would be amiss if I didn't ask you about, because so many of us struggle in this, and to a lot of us who know you, your mindset is so very strong. And I've asked you about this before, of how did you develop such a strong mindset? And to some degree, I almost wonder if you just think differently. How do you feel about that comment?
Well, I guess I think differently because I choose to. And my mindset, I don't know if my mindset is strong. I don't know what weak and what strength is in mindset. All I know is how I choose to think about things that take place. And if you get involved in enough activities, enough times, and study the results of the activity, you're going to discover that you're either operating from a positive or negative mindset. And I found that the positive mindset was much more beneficial and much more accepting than the negative. So I probably over time slowly changed how I thought about things. And instead of responding and reacting, somebody would say something and I would say just a moment, take a moment, think about my answer, and then respond. Now, when you've done seminars as many times as I have, I mean, I think my staff said I've done 7,000 seminars in my career. You understand what's going to happen long before it does, because you learn to read an audience, just like a good agent can read a buyer or a seller.
Right.
So, I don't have to think about it anymore because it's built into my response pattern. If Dakota decides to do this, I am going to do this to support him and or challenge him. And it's automatic, comes out quickly, comes out with a smile on my face. Sometimes it comes out with a little bit of a look at him. But, he's going to get the response that he needs to move forward. So it's just a matter of doing it all the time. Don't be afraid to try to change.
Wow. And if I coupled that with what we just talked about with starting every day at zero, every day you have an opportunity to get better. And you have to decide that you want that opportunity and that you want your reaction to be different. For so many, we just don't have that example. Life is all about drama. Social media is about everybody who has everything perfect. It looks like the world is perfect out there.
Yes.
And that adds a lot of pressure. But I also know that you have said over and over again that it is about developing the skill and the confidence and the ability. Like you just said, that you've done so many of these that not much really surprises you anymore.
No. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I was shocked at something somebody said.
Well,
because I've heard it all. You do something 7,000 times, you have experience at it.
And you really have heard it all. There has been
Yeah.
so many different things. We've talked about this before. For 20 years now, I've traveled with you and been at your side when you're doing seminars and people have heart attacks or seizures or all of these, the lights go out.
Get married or get divorced or have an affair or faint or pass out.
It's all happened.
Yeah.
And I guess it's that exposure, and maybe most of us just stay too much in our own little world, too
Yeah.
isolated. And maybe that's where I go back to you saying, don't be afraid to try.
Well, or as Mike Vance said, don't be afraid to get out of your box.
Yeah, how often do you think you should get out of your box? How often should that be a thought?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Every day you're changing. Every day you have new circumstances.
Would you recommend for our average viewer to maybe sit down and sort of look at what they want to change or what works for them or doesn't work for them? Like, what is a great step someone can take to
Well,
take
you
this
you have to
information?
first admit that you're not always right. Because if you're always right, then the person you're with is always wrong. And that does not advance the relationship. You're not going to prove to a seller that their price is stupid and ignorant and win the game. Okay? They're going to list with somebody else. You're not going to work with a buyer and make the buyer feel like a fool because they want that neighborhood and you don't think it's the right neighborhood for them. So, it's a matter of being open-minded. It's a matter of being willing to change. It's a matter of starting every day at zero. It's a matter of accepting the fact that you can't always be right. And, if you're right Gunther used to say all the time, if you're right 51% of the time, you're going to do extremely well in your business and life.
Just
That's only
51.
51%, 49%. It's only a 2% margin. And that 2% margin is going to be a big difference maker. So I've always played the game that if I can stay within that 2%, I'm going to win. And the customer I'm working with should win also.
Yeah, if the customer doesn't win, then as you have said, the relationship is harmed and it
That's right.
doesn't make sense to be right in that. I don't know about the rest of you, but that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So the first step is to understand that today, right now, right as you're watching this, you can make a choice to start this today.
Yeah.
And take out the drama.
That's right.
Remind yourself that you have a choice.
That's right.
And know that there is somebody who's already done this, so it's possible.
That's right.
That
And
person is you.
And there's somebody that likes it and somebody that doesn't, and that's okay. But just be careful who you believe.
What do you mean by that?
Well, everybody is preaching their story and their circumstances to everybody else all the time. That's what a salesperson and the sales process is all about. Be careful who you believe because they may not have any knowledge of what they're talking about.
And I won't identify who this was, but years ago I remember being with you when somebody that was pretty famous, and it was an author who had written a lot of books, you had on stage. And this person did their talk and came off stage and was totally different than their stage persona.
Yes.
So you really do have to vet who you want to follow and
Yeah.
pay attention and see if their life actually meets what they say. And there are so many people anymore who are experts on everything,
Yes.
but have never done it.
Well, I chose to believe Earl and Mike Vance and Gunther Klaus. And I've had many people pass before me that tried to get me to take their belief system and promote it. And I said I have 3 mentors, 3 coaches, 3 people that I hold in high esteem, and 3 people that I follow. So that's it. I look at the clock and it says 29 minutes and 35 seconds.
I know, I just looked at that too, and I thought, do I ask for a part 3? I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for watching.